We hope that by the end of this calendar year, that is December, we should be able to have fully operational gender development policy and gender-based violence policies. The issues around these policies is that we cannot have accelerated development, social, economical, political, cultural, without the involvement of all the community sectors. That is men and women, boys and girls, as well as people who are marginalized or people who are unreached. So in these two documents, first, the gender and development is a wider blueprint of how we intend to accelerate development in this county through the involvement and participation of all people, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of their gender, and regardless of their religious and any other cultural background.
The gender and development policy will now be able to ensure that this is actually implemented, and all the line departments in Kilifi County will endeavor to have gender mainstreaming and gender responsive budgeting in all that they do. As far as the GBV policy is concerned, this has been as a result of the rise in teen pregnancy and the rise of all the retrogressive cultures, including early marriages. You'll find at times that you'll get a child who has been defiled, has now been told by the parents to be able to go to that person who has defiled the perpetrator and go and live with them. So this is not something that we are keen, and the GBV policy will be able to address all this.
Once we have this policy in place, we'll be able to offer a survivor-centered approach kind of support services. For the longest time, we have had challenges in terms of responding to these cases. But once we have a guiding policy, then we are able to ensure that the survivors are able to get the necessary support services. And the coordination is also done in a proper, like in a swift way, so that we also not continue exposing the survivors to more harm.
You'll realize these cases in most cases are solved in kangaroo courts. And kangaroo courts in most cases you realize is what the reason in Kilifi we've had a problem of early pregnancies. Because when a perpetrator sees that a case has not gone through the legal process and the survivor has gotten justice, someone else will commit the same offense, will commit the same vice. And so if the process is streamlined and justice is achieved when it comes to cases of, especially rape and defilement, you realize this will help to change the community, and we are going to achieve a lot when it comes to fighting gender-based violence.
Tuko na furaha kama civil society kuwa tumeweza kuhusishwa katika hii process. Kwa sababu katika hii process part of the there's a part that kuna sehemu katika hii process inasema kila ambaye ni stakeholder akona role. So we have a role as a CSOs, manake sisi ndio watu tunakaa mashinani, sisi ndio mashirika ambayo visa vyote vya gender based violence vinaanzia kwa mashinani katika jamii. So sisi tunakaa kwa jamii kuhakikisha vile visa vinapofanyika, tunachukua ile referral process, tunasaidia wale watu na tunapeleka hospitali, unapeleka mtu polisi, unahakikisha amefikishwa kotini, ameenda kotini, na unahakikisha justice imepatikana. Alafu sisi tena tunarudishiwa wale survivors, tunaweza ku reintegrate back to the community. So it is so specific, manake kila kitu kiko well stipulated.
In this policy we are addressing issues of the girl, the woman, the boy, and also the men. But a lot of emphasis to the girls and the women because of historical injustices. Gender mainstreaming has been addressed so much in this policy. We want to make the community aware of these gender issues. This thing of if a wife is beaten or a child is beaten to be taken as a normal issue, we want the community to be aware of the rights of a woman, the rights of a girl, the rights of a child, so that the men are not caught up, or our men are not caught up on the other side of the law unintentionally. We know they're doing this unintentionally. So in the gender mainstreaming, you're actually putting everybody on board to be aware of the gender rights, to be aware of the inequalities. There are a lot of inequalities in Kilifi. You find most of the communities in our county, where our societies are patriarchal, and it is the man who decides about everything, about who gets education, about who goes to hospital, about who eats what, you know. So we want them all together to know, both the women, the men, the girls, and the boys, that rights is actually everybody's agenda. There are a lot of socio-cultural injustices that are actually affecting the girls and the women, and this overall affects the development of the society, because women play a very major role, but it's not considered valuable because the society assigns roles, valuable roles to men. But in this policy, everybody, the girl, the boy, the woman, and the man, will have an equal opportunity to access resources in terms of education. They'll have an equal opportunity to access even justice, because initially it was the man to decide whether justice is being followed or not. The gender mainstreaming that will come with this policy, the gender policy, will really bring in place and actually address the issues of early marriages, girls being left at home to take care of the other children, and boys going to school. About the GBV policy, we have a lot of issues in terms of rape. A study was done in Kilifi, and the intimate partner violence was actually standing at around 67%. And as you mentioned, most women don't know that being beaten by your husband is actually not right. And most of our men also don't know that it is a violation of rights. So we want all of them to know, whoever is being beaten and whoever is beating, they should be at the same level in terms of awareness that this is actually wrong, and find other ways of actually correcting each other or addressing their issues. So in the same study, rape and defilement in Kilifi, it was done in 6 counties. But Kilifi came out with 97.9 thereabout in terms of rape. And again, it's because of the socio-cultural practices where when a woman is raped, it is not a big issue. It's not a big deal. And it's because the women or the girls themselves don't know that it is a violation of right. So in the GBV policy, we want to address these rape issues, the defilement issues, this wife battering that is actually being taken like to be very normal, so that the perpetrators are aware of what they're doing, and also the survivors are also aware of their rights, so that they can be able to demand for their rights. They're able to report when it goes the other way, or the negative aspects come into play. And also in this document, as my colleague has said, the referral pathways, because it becomes a challenge at the community when something happens in terms of GBV, the women or the girls or even the boys and the men who have been violated don't know where to report, how to report, and this makes the kangaroo courts come into play, because our communities are only aware, or are mostly aware, of the village elders, the Nyumba Kumi elders, and they normally go to the kangaroo courts and will iron out after a child has been raped. But by the end of the day, this child or this woman or this boy does not get the complete package in terms of referral, does not get all the services that is required. So in this document, it will be helping to create awareness to the whole community that GBV is wrong, it's a violation of human rights. And number 2, informing the communities and the actors what to do or when to respond. And finally, how do you go even to justice? So bringing all the players into one basket and really coming out, what are the key issues in Kilifi? How do we address them? And how do we make sure they are implemented? The policy is not now like saying every man who beats the wife, or every boy who beats a girl, or every girl who beats a boy has to go to jail. But it has defined the strengths and the levels of interventions. There are cases where out of court arbitration, because we are also trying to, in this policy, we are trying to also put together the family core values, so that we encourage families to sit and talk, so that it's not like umepigwa, you actually run to court and you're asking for a divorce. No. It is also emphasizing on the family values. But what I'm emphasizing on, at different levels, because people have gone to Nyumba Kumi elders to actually talk about rape, to talk about a woman who's been battered or a woman who's been killed. So it is actually identifying clearly what needs to go where, what needs to go to court, what will need to go for arbitration, and what needs to actually end up in jail.